Hey everyone, I'm Cory from Aquariumcoop, and today we're baking a cake. I set myself with a task that's pretty difficult, and that is explaining how a planted aquarium works to people that don't have the sciencey brain. And so after putting on my thinking cap and thinking about how am I going to do this, I remembered we did a video like this with M&Ms and the nitrogen cycle. So let's revert back to food. We're going to bake a cake today and do something that I'm not very good at. That'll help me explain something I am good at, and that is planted aquariums. So today we're going to bake a cake, or at least we're going to use all the skills that people have seen. Maybe you bake cakes. Maybe you've seen people bake a cake. So you should understand how this works. Break it down into terms that you can understand for your aquarium. A little bit of background. My wife, trained baker, went to Cordon Bleu, knows how to make great cakes and all of that. That'll be a little relevant later. I myself am a master aquatic horticulturist when it comes to aquarium plants, right? So different specializations, but we're going to use her skill set to teach plants today. All right, a mix is basically all the things you want put into a box, making it easy. Now, why would my wife use this when you could make everything from scratch? It saves time. That's why. It makes it easy. It's easy to replicate. You do less measuring. Maybe you got to make, she'll do wedding cakes that are giant, or maybe it's like, oh, we need 15 different cakes. We need all this stuff. And so it's a time thing. And so that's why I developed Easy Green. Easy Green is the all-in-one cake mix of aquariums. It's got all the nutrients the plants need. It's easy to dose. Saves time. Yes, could you get all the raw ingredients and build a cake or make a cake? Yes. You can do the same thing with fertilizer. You can use dry fertilizers in 10, 15 different bottles and do a lot of measuring and stuff, and you can do that also. But Easy Green is the easy way, just like the cake mix is, right? So we've got our cake mix. We have to have what we're going to put the cake in, right? So we have a cake pan. The cake pan is your aquarium, right? Everything goes into your aquarium, the cake pan. And then also, we're going to have to cook it. We need the oven. Now, we put it into an oven at 350, we get a good cake, right? It says right here, use 350 degrees. Or, if you're using a glass tank or pan, 325. What's the equivalent of that for an aquarium? That's your light. Now we have the Aquariumcoop Easy LED, which, won't cook you a cake, but it does put out a lot of light. It's close. Now the key, using the things you have available to make the best product, right? So we need to start warming up the oven. That's the first thing. We got to cook this thing. So we're going to mix the ingredients. We need to cook it though. So we're going to turn the oven on. We're going to get a good aquarium light like this one, and we're going to set it. Instead of setting it to 350 degrees, we're going to set how powerful our light is, right? And depending on the pan or the aquarium, might be how much heat you're using, right? Because we already witnessed different pan, 325 degrees. If we had a more shallow tank, we'd use less light. If we had a taller tank, we'd use more light. So the first thing we want to do is set the aquarium light up. And for most people, in most applications, probably nearish to full blast, but it depends on what you're baking, right? We're baking a cake. Maybe you're baking just some cookies and you need a different temperature, or just cooking some bacon, whatever you're doing. But the oven, the light, we set that up. Get it on a timer, right? We use a timer on an oven. We're going to set that to, how many minutes? Does it say right here? Of course not. That'd be way too easy. Oh, wait, right here. Bake time, 25 to 30 minutes. Just like we'll set a timer. We're going to set a timer on a light for about 8 to 10 hours. So we've got our oven. We've got our constant, the thing that once you learn an oven, you know what it does. If you're a baker, like my wife, every time we moved house, we got a different oven. Oh my gosh, this thing works completely different. Same with lights. Once you got that dialed in, leave it alone. So we got our light set up. Now we've got our plants and we need our ingredients. So this comes with almost everything you need except for water, oil, and eggs. Easy Green comes with almost everything you need except for water and really hardness minerals. It's got iron, it's got nitrogen, it's got potassium, it's got a lot of stuff in it. But the hardness, so calcium, doesn't have much of that at all in there. So we've got our mix, right? We've got our mix. We add the water. Boom. Now that'll get you just your normal basic cake. You've got plants, you've got Easy Green, and you've got the oven or the light. Your plants will grow. Now you might grow algae. You might burn the cake. You could do some stuff, right? But in the core principle, it's going to be a cake. The biggest difference in making a cake or growing plants in an aquarium is the cook. You're the cook. You have the aquarium. And there's a lot of things that my wife will do to make a cake mix slightly better. She might go, oh, I don't like to use this much oil, I like to use this thing, or oh, I always add a bit of vanilla, or I always do this. And that's what we need to be doing with our aquarium. So we get the basic cake, and now you got to keep making those, right? You make a cake and you go, that was pretty good, I did that again, do that again. And then one day maybe you're out of an ingredient, or maybe you want to try making it a little more fancy. And that might be when you start adding in, oh, I'm going to add in more iron, or oh, I'm going to add in easy carbon, setting too fast, getting a little too crispy. Maybe use carbon to fight off that algae, right? So it's that to taste part. And that's what's very important, and that's why we're not all getting the same result. When you eat a cake, right? If I make this cake and my wife makes this cake, they'll be completely different, and I guarantee you want to have hers. It'll be done well, it'll look nice, I don't want to give away her secrets because I don't know how much of a secret are, but the secret ingredients she used, I wouldn't know to use without her. And so that's what happens in our aquariums. We'll see someone, they've made a nice cake. Wow, that's great. Ooh, it tastes great. I want that. You buy the mix, you don't get quite the same result, you get something similar. We've got the Easy Green, the cake mix, and we've got an oven to put it in. Boom. You will grow aquarium plants. Now, specifically what type of plants, right? If you're doing all highlight stem plants, that might be like making croissants where, oh, I got to fold it 1 billion times and it compounds and all that. Or maybe you're just making cookies and growing some anubias, right? Or maybe it's cryptocorns and you're baking a loaf of bread. They're all the same principle, ingredients, an oven, right? And a cook. That's what you need. What you choose to do will be slightly different. And so if you have the basis, right? You've got a kitchen, you've got an oven. Yeah, I've got flour. Yeah, I've got some mixes. Yeah, I've got a recipe book. Yeah, I've got this. You'll be successful. When you make it, you might go, went a little heavy on the sugar, or, oh, that's a little too salty. That's that cook factor where you go, okay, I'll make some adjustments the next time I try. And this is a thing where I don't expect myself to make a great cake the first time I do it, right? It's a skill I have to learn, and I think people forget that in this hobby, that growing aquarium plants is a skill. It takes time. It took me a long time to become a master aquatic horticulturist. At this point, I've got warehouses and store and my own personal. They're all growing plants. They all have different systems. They all have different ovens, right? They're using different lights, and we have automatic dosers, and we have CO2, and we have all this crazy stuff. They all have the same components they use, right? Now, that last thing is CO2. And CO2 throws a lot of people for a loop, but the best analogy I could think of in this baking cake mix type thing is like rising dough, or letting something sit for too long, or not having soft butter. It changes the end product, but it's still the same thing, right? So a cookie that has cold butter, all of a sudden it's kind of weird and thin and a little more crispy, where if the butter was softened and whipped correctly, it takes a different shape. And that's kind of what CO2 does. With the light and the nutrients in the CO2, you might see a little bit of leaf shape difference. You might see them grow faster or rise faster. But the reality is you don't have to have it for most of the plants. We do sell regulators, and we have that. And it is a benefit to some people that want to kind of do more. And maybe in the kitchen, like my wife, right? She specializes in baking. She does it all the time. We have a KitchenAid mixer, right? And if you're going to be a person that's doing plants all the time, and you really want to get into this hobby and really play with all the plants and try to make this one a little more pink and that one a little more purple and this one, a little bit different shape, the CO2 is a good option to have. It will speed things up just like that cake mixer or the KitchenAid will as well, but it's not required. You can get in there and just whip it yourself, and your fish are making you CO2 and you've got some anyway. But that's the best example I have. And the cook's got to learn how to cook. I am a terrible cook, so I don't do the cooking around here, but I'm pretty darn good at plants, so I take care of that. What's odd is my wife also does house plants, and she uses Easy Green for that, and it works pretty good too, but that's because it's all kind of the basic thing. She just has to add water in a different way. Instead of your pan being full of water, she pours in the water. So hopefully for the people that don't have that scientific brain that understands, well, how much nitrogen does it need? Well, how much potassium? Oh, this plant wants more potassium, and oh, more iron for this plant. If that all just went over your head, maybe you're more of an artistic person that maybe likes to cook, or you at least understand the concept of setting the right temperature, using the right ingredients, and then there's always that extra element of the cook going, I do mine a little bit differently to get this result. Good luck. Let me know. Show me your Aquarium Co-op cakes, and we'll see you in that next video.
We hope you enjoyed this video. We actually picked another one that we thought you might like, so click on it right here.